with 5. Welcome to another edition of Gavin Richard Presents on my channel, GBoo2786. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you all are having a blessed, wonderful Sunday. This is a lazy Sunday, as my guest has alluded to. Please welcome the wonderful and beautiful Miss Nicole Lewis from Nicole's View. Y'all give it up for her.
Hey everyone. Thank you, Gavin, for having me on.
Thank you for being a guest here. And already we got 5 people in the chat room. If you have not, please subscribe. And I don't know who hasn't, but subscribe to Nicole's channel, Nicole's View, only on YouTube. And she also has a podcast on Anchor. Tell everybody about your podcast, Nicole.
Well, my podcast is basically Nicole's View. Is just an extension of my YouTube channel. I talk about the latest news, reviews, and what's going on, interviews and whatnot. So, yeah, make sure to check it out.
Make sure to check it out. Yes. And I should also note that I just aired my first podcast episode yesterday. You should check it out. It was entitled Cutting Off Their Nose to Spite Their Face. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today because it alludes to, I guess, the main topic that's been going on. Which regards to Joe Biden and his Breakfast Club interview. And I can already tell by your face, you know where we're going with it.
I was up till 2 a.m. doing my latest podcast about that travesty. So, yeah.
Right. Well, we'll segue into them. But are there any, I want everyone to know, any other projects that you have that are coming out aside from your podcast? Do you have...
No, not at this moment. I'm just really trying to get back in the swing of things with my channel with YouTube, because my channel was, I had some issues with it being demonetized. So I took some time away from it and I just did live streams. But I'm going to get back in the groove of things, making more videos and basically just focusing on building my podcast as well. So just getting hopefully bigger and better.
That's good. Oh, you keep rising and you're doing your thing. So I'm real proud of you. So just keep it up. Yeah, because you've and I did check out your interview you did with the 5 women on R. Kelly this past Tuesday, was it? And
yes, Thursday.
Thursday. Well, to be honest, I was paying attention, but I know they were kind of talking over you a little bit.
Yeah, well, kind of towards the end.
Yeah.
But overall, hopefully, I hope people could hear what they were saying because, these women, they say they, except one, but the rest have met him and they have a totally different story than what we've been told in mainstream media. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to tell their stories, their interactions with R. Kelly, and what they said was pretty eye-opening, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah, that was the main thing I was paying attention to. I was trying to listen to the information because the information is what is important.
Right.
The information is what we all look at and need to, whether you like R. Kelly or not. As an attorney, I've always said and believed in the old expression that all persons are innocent until proven guilty. Whether they're accused of petty theft or whether they're accused of an act of terrorism, they have a right to due process and they have a right to trial. And he, at this time, what has happened is he is in holding until a pre-trial holding until his trial begins. And I think in the middle of this pandemic, and you've pointed this out because we've been dealing with the Bill Cosby situation, a capo regime of the Bonanno crime family, Vinny Arvazo, if I'm not mistaken, is that his name?
I forgot. Yes, you're right.
LinkedIn, but hold on one second.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, let's see. He was actually, I'm trying to get his name, but you guys I can't find it right now. But if you guys look that up, this man was convicted of arson.
Yes.
Which is a violent offense. And he's in federal prison. And yet he was released. Now, in order to be a capo in the mob family, you have to paint houses when you become a made man. If you, those that saw The Irishman, you know what it means to paint a house. You kill people,
Right.
commit murder.
Right.
And yet they let this man out, but an 82-year-old blind man who served his country in the Navy, who was a humanitarian, a philanthropist like Bill Cosby, that gave hundreds of millions of dollars, over $200 million to historically Black colleges and universities, as well as other schools and institutions. Not to mention also the civil rights monies he gave, giving the NAACP carte blanche to use his image.
Correct.
He's still in jail, in prison. And it doesn't surprise me that the NAACP has been silent about it, because they've been bought off for a long time. I don't know why anybody would consider the NAACP serious anymore.
Right. Right. It's, these organizations, as you said, they've been bought off. They don't have Black people's interests at heart anymore. And honestly, I don't know if they truly did, because we know how a lot of these organizations started in the first place. They were not started by Black people. So.
Right. There were only seven at the time the NAACP started, which was in 1909, if I'm not mistaken. There were only 7 to 9 Blacks, including W.E.B. Du Bois and Ida B. Wells.
Yes. Absolutely.
And W.E.B. Du Bois is an important one to remind me, because we're going to talk about that when it comes to voting. But the main people that formed the NAACP were all Jews, mostly Jewish white people. The Spingarn medal that we talk about, Joel Spingarn, he, was a white Jewish man that helped fund the NAACP, but it's my understanding also he was an informant for the FBI at one time. So that's very interesting to note. But and let's not forget also the NAACP gave Donald Sterling an award for his being his work in the community and so forth. And we all know how that blew up in their face. Although I should say that's the local chapter of Los Angeles, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I remember that whole incident, and just how he had the mind state of a slave master. So all these people are all interconnected. It's crazy.
Yeah. Hold on. Did you freeze a little bit?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah. So in talking about Bill Cosby, though, it looks like I froze a little bit. Let me try and switch. Just hold on. I know it may look like I'm clinking out, but
okay.
I'm not. I'm switching to another, so that way it will stay on.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I switched to. I'm in the part of my house, and this happened when I did the. You remember I had the interview with Tom Mesereau. You guys can check that out on YouTube. Nicole was one of the viewers watching, and my channel froze out, and I'm in a different part of the house. So this area of the house is where I have the studio, and the Wi-Fi is not that great, and I have an extender I had to buy. So Nicole texted me while I'm doing the interview, like, "What? You froze, call Tom." I was like, no, I didn't. It's the Wi-Fi. I'll get him back on. I said, "You're actually listening?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm listening." I'm like, "Oh, God." And I had to run and go to, I guess, my part of my bedroom, which is why you later saw me in an interview just with the absent avatars. You can see me in there, because I was just doing it from there, and the Wi-Fi is a little better. But I like just doing it in the studio, so that way I can get to use this $100 equipment of a microphone and stereo. Right. I'm trying to put this to use, people. So
right.
That's
good. That's good.
So we're back now. But just the thing that you did with Cosby, the videos, and I was a part of that. Tell everybody about the 3-minute video that you uploaded this past Thursday or Friday, was it? That was a memo to Governor Tom Wolf.
Well, yes, I made a call. I said, there are a lot of Bill Cosby supporters out there. They feel hopeless. They feel helpless. And I was just thinking, why don't we do this? Because shout out to Sasha Hampton, who is a avid Cosby supporter as well. I saw that she had her little adorable son Josiah do a call to action for Governor Wolf to release Bill Cosby, and I was like, why don't we all do that too? So I have to give her credit for that, because I got the inspiration from that. And I was like, let's just reach out to all Cosby supporters, and whoever is comfortable to come on camera and just simply say free Bill Cosby, or if you have a short, small piece you want to say. And I just said, why don't we do this? Why don't we put this together, make it compelling? Hopefully it could get some traction, go viral. So I'm just asking people to just share that everywhere. Share it on from my channel. If you're on Facebook, I uploaded it to the Bill Cosby is Innocent Movement Facebook page. So I'm sharing that main link so it can keep getting views. Hopefully more people will see it. And we want to put pressure on Governor Tom Wolf out of Pennsylvania to do the right thing and free Bill Cosby.
Yeah, I definitely think, given his age, given the fact that these charges, number one, should have never been brought. They were fucking bogus. Excuse my language. I know it's Sunday, Lord.
Not at all.
They were bogus from the beginning. When I obviously spoke to Tom, he talked about the statute of limitations had expired on these charges because she could not name the actual dates and time specifically when this happened. It wasn't even properly in the Bill of Information, if I'm not mistaken, but they had to put that in there. And a Bill of Information basically means, an indictment of, well, not an indictment because a grand jury indicts, but a bill of arrest stating what the charges were and the nature of it, the date and time, and you have to allege that with specificity, or if that is a word. I'm doing Don King terms, but specificity of dilapidated. Yeah, but they have to be specific, and of course, it's my understanding, because everybody knows Nicole was at this trial. And shout out to Sasha, because she's actually in the chat box. She just she put out a black heart. I don't know if that's good or bad. Is that good? That's good. I take it as good.
Black love, yeah.
Black heart. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, shout out to her and all the others in the chat room. I see Jaleel is in here, and Clay, and Craig, and I be me. Yeah.
Hey, y'all, the gang.
Right. And Sasha was at the trial with you, if I'm not mistaken.
Sasha went to the appeals process. I was at the criminal trial.
Right. But I saw your interview with Andrew Wyatt, and he talked about how Sasha actually came down with her kids. And was it a feminist that was attacking her or something like that?
Yes, it was one of the, Andrea Constant, a part of that clique, one of the Looney Tunes from that whole group was out there harassing Sasha, and basically, Cosby supporters who went to the appeal process. And she, this lady is known for being very nasty. During the trial, I saw her out there. She had all these antics and tricks and bubbles, and I mean, it was just a madhouse. And basically, she was sent out there to just, be a menace to anyone who was out there supporting Bill Cosby. But yeah, she was harassing Sasha and her kids, and Sasha held her ground, and I'm proud of her for that, because we won't be bullied. You won't shut us up. You're out there, and we deserve to be out there too. So, right. I'm proud of her for that.
And that's another reason why there should be ground for appeal, because the judge basically allowed a circus environment to prejudice the judicial proceedings. When you have witnesses that are allowed to make outbursts such as, "Do you remember me, Mr. Cosby?" like that crying prostitute, Shalane Elisha, I believe is her name is,
yes.
who basically, and I saw even Umar Johnson said this, she didn't say Bill Cosby raped her. He said that her allegation was that he drugged her, humped her leg, and grabbed her breast.
Yes.
Which isn't rape.
She testified that Bill Cosby humped her leg in court. And these are the things that people, they don't know, because they just go by the headlines. They're not researching like me or you or others. And I had to come out here and talk about it. I was like, do you guys actually know what some of these women are saying? They're so outrageous. It doesn't even make sense.
Right. And some of the now let me ask you this, Nicole. Has anyone ever thoroughly gone and looked at all of the accused? I'm talking about all 60 of them, and have their allegations been called into check? Because some, I know one lady, and I'll just name her name, Sean Brown, for instance.
Yes.
Sean Brown's, this is what people don't know, but Sean Brown, these are court records that are I'm getting this from. Her daughter was a woman named Autumn Jackson.
Yes.
Now, Sean Brown is the only woman that Bill Cosby had alleged to have an affair with publicly, if I'm not mistaken. And she had this child, Autumn Jackson, in the 1970s. Now, no paternity test was ever done, and she actually had another man who was her boyfriend, if I'm not mistaken, who was a waiter, Mexican guy. And he alleged to be the father of Autumn Jackson. But what happens is that Cosby, like he did for so many people, he paid for her college education. When he found out that she dropped out, he cut off the trust fund for her, which is why she filed, or she didn't file, excuse me. She tried to extort $40 million from Bill Cosby, along with several other individuals.
Yes.
Her boyfriend, who she's married to now, and 2 other Russian men, who I can't think of the name, but you can all look this up. Now, she got convicted, but then her mother never testified. I looked at it. Her mother never testified at the trial. And her mother never mentions, and this is back in the 90s. I remember when it happened. Never mentions anything about rape, never mentions that this child was conceived by rape, that Bill Cosby was abusive, until the Andrea Constand matter, which came out in 2005. And what's important and to remember about timing, and I'm giving I got to tell you all about this, even though I'm giving away stuff that's going to be in my book that I'm writing. But what's interesting is that was less than 4 days after the murder of Bill and Camille Cosby's only son, Enos Cosby.
Correct.
Who was just shot off the 405 freeway by a Ukrainian-Russian immigrant.
Correct. The connections. Yeah.
Right. And I don't know. I know you've interviewed Andrew. I don't know if you've ever asked him, but I just want your opinion. Do you think all of this is connected as far as Enos's murder? I know that the man is in jail, but is in prison. But do you think that there's a connection with all of this with regards to the allegations and linking it to Bill Cosby's attempt to buy the national broadcast company, NBC?
Well, it's tricky. It's tricky. But in an overall picture, do I think that there was definitely some agenda against Bill Cosby? Absolutely. Yeah. Because you don't do all this just, all of this is not by coincidence. I do believe Bill Cosby became too big for their liking, especially with that power move trying to buy NBC. You just don't do that as a Black man in America. It's just not that easy. And even if you do, like we saw with Michael Jackson when he bought, the Beatles catalog, we saw what happened. I mean, it went from, okay, he's wacko jacko to he's a pedophile. And you saw slowly how everything just turned. So for me, I can see that.
Right.
I say definitively that, is connected. No, but I can see there is some type of entity that is after Cosby.
I know she probably won't, but I wish Mrs. Cosby would actually sit down with herself, do a one-on-one interview with either you or with me or any type of Black press and talk about that, because this is important. Now, when I said I was giving away stuff in my book, the information was already out there. It's in the court records. You can go look it up for yourself. Tariq Nasheed talked about it. Just Google Autumn Jackson's arrest on January 20th, 1997.
Yes.
And the FBI had to get involved in that because that was a federal crime. Now, it's interesting, if she had gone the route like these women did, like Gloria Allred, who was an attorney, then she wouldn't have been arrested for extortion, because attorneys can handle matters on behalf of their client. When it comes to extortion is when, and this is what Avenatti got sentenced with, was that I believe there was actual attempt to blackmail Nike into doing this, and that was the issue with that. And Avenatti, of course, got released from prison, and Avenatti was involved with R. Kelly's situation. And now, I do want to ask you this, because to talk about R. Kelly, had you ever, just curious, because you're a person like I am where you believe in fairness and due process and equality. Like, regardless of the allegations you've heard, you're going to at least hear what the evidence is. Have you gotten any flat back from doing that interview that you did? Because there are people who have unfriended me when I called out the Surviving R. Kelly documentary. And what's sad about it, guys, is that these were fellow attorneys doing this too. These are the people that, like me, that took an oath to defend this Constitution, to uphold it. And our Constitution says due process. It requires equal protection under the law. So with that, had you ever gotten any negative feedback? Just curious.
You know, when I went in my comment section on that interview, I saw a lot of support, surprisingly. I'm sure if I went on Twitter and started really going through the comments, I'm sure I got some ugly or anti-R. Kelly comments, but surprisingly, it's getting a warm reception. And I don't know if the tide is starting to change, because more people, from my understanding, are very, like I am with Cosby, vested in it. There are many bloggers that are vested in the R. Kelly, the allegations against him. And they're out there too saying this man is being set up. We know R. Kelly is no angel, but this whole Surviving R. Kelly debacle, brought to you by Lifetime, is what that was. People feel it was just a clown show.
It definitely was. And then at the end, they're talking about doing a Surviving R. Kelly tour where they're promoting their music. That's where it went south for me, when they put that up, and there was some people trying to defend it. Well, victims, they sometimes act weird. I was like, well, they may act weird, but they don't go and do a damn telemarketing campaign either. I've never seen nothing like that.
Who does that? Who goes on tour? Like, what is this really? And I've said many, many times, this has become an industry. People are making money off of this. It's not even serious anymore. It's not about actual victims of sexual assault, some of the most vicious things you can think of. When I see stuff like that, I can only think that this is a joke. This is a money scheme. This is what it is to me.
Right. And it's definitely a money scheme to a degree, but what even caught me was when they were actually bringing him on what's called RICO charges for marrying Aaliyah. RICO statute, if you know anything about that, that was created as a racket by the feds to stop and cut down mafia activity, in Las Vegas and other places around the state. So RICO was used to stop racketeering, and in these unions and these casinos and so forth. That's why they created it. And they're trying to use one charge that they're using on R. Kelly is stemming from under a RICO statute based off his marriage with Aaliyah, and saying based off of that he's using that to get young girls and so forth, which Aaliyah, unfortunately, is no longer with us. So I don't see the point in, if you've got him on, if there's evidence to be made, and if there's evidence there and there's a case to be made off that evidence, okay. But all of that for R. Kelly, a RICO statute, I even find that to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? She's not here anymore, and the only point I can think of is they're trying to stack the deck against him, because the actual charges themselves that they slapped together are weak. It's kind of like what they did with Cosby. They know Andrea Constand's case itself is very weak. She's not even accusing Cosby of rape, but aggravated indecent assault. So they have to add all this extra stuff, like they added all the 5 additional women, was the 404B witnesses. So
and they were weak too.
Yeah.
They were weak too. So getting back with Cosby, just because I don't think I properly got I didn't know if I got an answer, or just to confirm, have all of those 60 women, do you know if someone actually went through detail and discredited them, and where they could find that information at?
There was one article that stated every woman's, accusation. But from my understanding from Andrew, he's saying that maybe 12 of these 60 women actually have serious charges against, or accusations they're leveling against Bill Cosby. A majority of them are, oh, he bumped up against me. Oh, he touched my breast. Oh, he did this.
Right.
The majority.
Lou Ferrigno's wife tried to say this was before she married the Hulk, that he tried to kiss her, and she ended up walking out with her boyfriend. She was Playboy Bunny at one point, and but and I think Drew was the one. Shout out to Drew Story News, who actually did that breakdown of a few of those accusers. So y'all should check that out. Right. I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, I wanted to point that I'm just talking to you. So
no, it's cool. It's fine. But yeah, what most people don't know, when you actually go and you look at all of the accusers, a majority of them just make some of the most silliest, asinine accusations against him, and it doesn't even make sense. So that's how it is. If you don't do the research, you don't know this. You just go by mainstream media. So yeah.
Bossa Queenie says, in the RICO indictment, he is the sole person listed. It is usually a bunch of people listed in a RICO. Well, yeah, typically, well, I mean, anyone can be charged with a RICO statute under that, but I think typically, like I say again, you're talking about mafia control, so I can understand what you mean by that, Queenie. Thank you. Because that's really what that law was about, just like the 14th. You about to say something, Nicole?
No, I'm just gonna 1 second. My son is coming in. I'm just gonna get him 1 second.
Okay. Oh, AJ. What's up, man? Okay. That's my first time seeing AJ live.
He's been in a few before. He's made some surprise appearances.
But this is my first appearance, though. I'm blessed.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all good. Yeah. So I forgot where we were saying. We were talking about
RICO charges.
The RICO charges, R. Kelly. Yeah, well, that's typical. Like I say, mafia, just like the 14th Amendment. What that was created for was to give Black citizenship in the United States. And of course, over time now, every other group has tried to use it applied to them. Especially, equal protection under the law for LGBTQ or feminist groups, although there's a different level of scrutiny when you're talking about racial groups, whether you're talking about feminism, or, I shouldn't say feminist, but female and male gender. And then I think there's also what's called a rational basis test.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's the lowest level, and really it takes a lot to when you talk about strict scrutiny and intermediate scrutiny and rational basis. That's what that is. That's con law. I'm surprised I still remember all of that. I had to remember all of that.
Yeah.
Janista Coleman said, "So very handsome young man." Oh, thank you, Janista. I appreciate it.
Oh.
Were you talking about AJ? I don't know.
Oh.
I'll take it as me. Jaleel says, with Cosby, some of my family tells me that Cosby needs to take some accountability in slowing down Black folks' progress, basically being hypocritical. My question is, what progress is slowed? You want to take that or me?
I mean, we can both take it. I'll take it first. I tend to hear this a lot when it comes to Bill Cosby. I'm not sure what accountability he needs to take. The only accountability I would say he should take, of course, is with his wife. But to the public, to the state of Pennsylvania, no. What he did, of course, morally, between him and his wife, it wasn't cool. Messing around with Andrea Constand was the biggest mistake, of course, of his life.
Yeah. But, what did he see in? What did he see in her?
Well, Constand, to be fair, didn't look.
I think she came on. She did come on to him, but
yes,
yeah.
When you go back and you actually look at how Constand looked back in 2005 versus now, of course, people say, what the hell did he see? But Constand earlier, she wasn't butch looking. She looked feminine. Right. She had long curly hair. She did have an ambiguous look to her. So I can see. She was
athletic. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see why Cosby back then could see, maybe was attracted to her. But as we all know how that all turned out. Constand, when I went to the trial, one thing that Mesereau said during his opening or closing, one of the two, Cosby was still dealing with the death of Ennis Cosby. A lot of people don't realize that Cosby was still feeling a certain way about it. He was vulnerable, a lot going on. So does it make it right morally? No. Should he stay faithful to Miss Camille Cosby? Absolutely. But accountability as far as these charges, these allegations, this was a hit job.
Well, let me say, okay, that's a good way to look at it. But let me say this. And by the way, Janista was saying to both of you guys, okay? So she's saying both me and AJ are handsome. I'll take that. Well, let me just say this. Bill Cosby, as far as accountability is concerned and slowing down progress, what progress did he slow down? If anything, he pushed progress. When you looked at his show I Spy, there had never been a black man on mainstream television in a drama like that, where he's on I Spy with Robert Culp and he pushed for a black stuntman. When they were going to have a white male in blackface, he objected to that. Right. So he helped push for that. He also helped get many black comedians, their first jobs, like Dougie Doug, when he had that show, This Is Where I Live on ABC, and they were in danger of pulling the show. He backed that. A lot of people don't know that. When he made Meteor Man with Robert Townsend, in order to that was the first big budgeted superhero movie, and he had James Earl Jones, he had Bill Cosby, he had Beverly Johnson. And that's interesting because Beverly Johnson was in that movie with Bill Cosby, but never says anything about him sexually assaulting her, although they probably didn't have the same scenes together because they bring in, actors going to work in this scene one day and this actor works in another scene, but still you never heard anything about that. He helped Robert Townsend with that budget by working for practically nothing to do that movie. I mentioned Sinbad. Sinbad got one of his big breaks being on the Cosby Show, although Sinbad actually started out working with Red Fox too. Red Fox and Bill Cosby actually owned a comedy club together in Los Angeles at one point. And Bill Cosby was actually very militant off stage versus how he was on stage. There was a time and place that he did it because he knew he could make more money being in front of a white audience and talking about family issues. He wasn't, I guess if you say like Richard Pryor, although Richard Pryor even idolized Bill Cosby. If you read Paul Mooney's autobiography, Black is the New White, he talks about the relationship, how Bill Cosby was and how Richard even felt, I guess, sometimes jealous because Bill was the one making all the money. But Richard Pryor, to me, is the greatest stand-up comedian of all time. And let's not forget, if you saw that ABC, The Last Days of Richard Pryor, I think even his own kids and family didn't like it because I thought they were trying to do a dry run on Richard. And Richard has been dead for over 15 years. Eddie Griffin was in Meteor Man. Eddie Griffin, I see Laughing Stock is saying that, Eddie Griffin was in Meteor Man, and Eddie Griffin and Bill Cosby were close. Eddie talked about the relationship that he had with Bill on Vlad. And of course, Vlad it looks like he had an agenda.
Right.
Obviously, because he has John Amos and Linnell and DL Hughley. And no disrespect to those comedians, but I think they're wrong in their approach with this.
Right.
You know, I respect brother DL Hughley, but I don't agree with the way he acted. Same thing with George Wallace. I don't care for him too much. But no. but you know what Bill did with his wife, you know, that was a sin against her and it was a sin against God. You know, he committed adultery. But on the flip side of it, you know, why Camille stayed with him. Some people say, why was she staying with them if they knew all of this stuff? Well, ask Frank Sinatra's wife. Ask Dean Martin's wife. Frank Sinatra's wife, Barbara, who just passed away, talked about how she understood that Frank Sinatra, who he was, that he was Frank Sinatra, and she never had any problem with him, I guess, philandering, because she knew he attracted women. He's Frank Sinatra.
Right. Old blue eyes. Yeah.
Nat King Cole, his wife, and I know he's black man, but Nat King Cole's wife, Maria, said when he was dying, she was with him the whole time. She said, my husband wasn't perfect, but he was still my husband.
Right.
You know, they had children together. And Bill and Camille Cosby have, you know, 5 children together and grandchildren. You know, she didn't want to divorce him. And I think many of these women, they were probably jealous because he didn't leave her to be with him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that happens. Women lie. Women, you know about it. I mean, all people lie, but what I've been reading and hearing, even from other women, just like and we're going to be talking about this election, like part of the reason why Hillary Clinton didn't win, just look at the statistics. There were more women that voted Donald Trump in than they did for Hillary. They stood by their man because there's a jealousy aspect.
Right.
You know, I don't want that person to succeed. And it's not linked to, and, you know, Bill, I didn't agree with everything Dr. Cosby said. I did not agree necessarily with the pound cake speech. I did not agree with his comments on Trayvon Martin. You know, I think he could have really punched at white supremacy more. Could he have said more things about racism and police brutality? Yeah, he could have. I agree with that. But damn it, he didn't deserve this. And when they come for us, if they come for one of us, they're coming for all of us.
Correct.
And if they do this to him, and Mike Epps said this even on the Breakfast Club, and the Breakfast Club have been throwing shade at Cosby. Yeah. Especially Angela, I can't deal with her. But
me neither.
You know, she said my mom knew someone who was raped by Bill Cosby. And if you saw the interview Damon Wayans was doing, Damon Wayans was practically ignoring her, kind of a little bit. He was just talking about him because he was like, you know, you wait 40 years. And she said, well, some of the women didn't wait 40 years. But still, if you listen to them the first time, bitch, how many times it happened? You know? But who keeps going back? Like the one lady who I think was on his television show, Picture Pages. I remember that when he used to draw. She said it had been going on for 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. So how many drinks do you, like Sinbad even asked, how many drinks do you have over a 4-year period to say maybe I shouldn't be drinking anymore?
These stories make no sense. And when it doesn't make sense, to me, it's not true.
Right. Well, they don't have a police report. They don't have not one of these. Don't you find it interesting? And all the people up there in the comments that none of these women actually went to the hospital. Forget even a police report.
Yeah.
Who go? Like I listened to the lady PJ Maxson. I'm reading, and she talked about how she was raped by Cosby and was bruised, but then she had to leave because she had to go to work. Now wait a minute. You didn't go to the police. You didn't go to the hospital after you were drugged, and you felt it was time to go to work. That you were in a good condition to be at work. Didn't call in sick. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Okay, I don't buy it. The stories, all these stories made zero sense to me. And if you're using common sense, you can see through it. Right. And yeah, Jaleel, nobody went to the doctor, police, filed a report, nothing. There's no proof.
Another thing that they should have used in the trial, there's no proof of any drugs. How do we know this was a drug that was given? They
Right.
have no medical record.
Right. There was no evidence. There was nothing.
They tried to use a deposition against him, or they did use a deposition against him, but a prosecutor had an agreement not to prosecute. And my understanding, and I'm going to bring him back on the show, brother Judge Joe Brown, because he and I talk about this. The civil judge okayed that agreement between Cosby and the prosecutor. So if the civil judge okayed it, how does this criminal judge, O'Neill, who was clearly corrupt, I'm man enough to say it, I don't care, he was corrupt in what he did. And Nicole, you've done a breakdown on it. Everybody's done a breakdown on it about the ties between him and his wife, and just how the whole deck was stacked. Tom tells you the deck was stacked, and and the account, and so Bill Cosby, you may not agree with everything he says. I didn't, but hey, he's like Minister Farrakhan even said this. He's paid his dues. Right.
Absolutely. There's not going to be a perfect victim, like folks like to say. Yes, I've had, some of my disagreements with some of the things he said over the years, but there is absolutely no way that what happened to him was okay. Not in the least bit. I mean, even if the fact that they did it at the age that he is, that's even more worse to me. Why did you do this when he was in his 40s? You know what I'm saying? 50s, hell. Why would you do this in his 80s when this man is literally in his golden years, the last few years left on this earth, and you do this? To me, that's coward.
Well, yeah, and to top that off, I'm glad you mentioned that. At the time when he was on the enemies list with Richard Nixon, they were actually audited twice or multiple times in 1 year. And sure enough, if he's under, I'm assuming, federal surveillance because he's on the president's enemies list, just like Dick Gregory was, there were whites that were on there as well.
Jane
Fonda, but she even threw shade at Cosby too.
Not surprised.
All of that would make more sense then when you have J. Edgar Hoover and these guys who clearly did not like black people, that they would go after them. Eartha Kitt was blacklisted from Hollywood because she went to the White House and challenged LBJ on the treatment of black soldiers in Vietnam, and also how black people were treated here. So I just can't imagine that all this time, not one white woman who got raped when the interracial marriages were still taboo. Correct. Let's not forget that.
Correct.
I just can't. Yeah, I can't fathom that these women were that scared that they were going to lose a job because they benefit from white privilege, from white supremacy here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They would have been believed automatically. So, especially the further you go back in time. So I don't buy it at all.
Right. Coastal Peach says, "Hi, family. I just joined." Hi, Nicole, just joined. So she's one of your followers.
Yes. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining.
Yes. Here. Did I freeze? Did we freeze?
Briefly,
okay.
But you're back.
All right. Guys, you see the ticker at the bottom. Please donate to the channel. CashApp, GavinRichardEsq, Google Pay, so I can still get used to this equipment. And y'all got to support us because you want to see interviews like this, like when we're bringing Israel, or you've had on, the Jackson family, which was big. Tajin, what's the Brandy? Is it Brandy Jackson? Yeah, Brandy. Yes. Yeah, you had Todd and Brandy on before. Yeah. So you guys keep supporting us. So, and we're gonna move into, since we brought up the Breakfast Club, we got to talk about obviously the interview with Joe Biden. That I don't know. I think Charlemagne's and the Breakfast Club are where Democratic candidates go to kill off their careers.
I agree.
Yeah, because Joe Biden, really shot himself in the foot. And for those that didn't hear the interview, I guess I'll play a little bit of it right here. But and Nicole, you have a podcast on it. Let me go ahead see if I can play it. Can anyone first off just let me know if y'all hear anything, or if not, I gotta adjust it. So.
Drug rehabilitation program than it does in jail, and you have a chance. You got to give people a chance.
You know, Vice President Biden, I've read some of your black agenda. You say that you criminalize marijuana. What's the difference between legalizing it and decriminalizing it?
Can y'all hear?
Yeah, turn it up some more.
Leading you to other drugs, but what it affects doesn't affect long-term development of the brain. And we should wait till the studies are done.
Now, I'm gonna pause it for a little bit, but what y'all are talking, Charlamagne and Biden have been talking. This was an 18-minute clip. Now, I won't play all of it for purpose's sake, but you should sit down and watch the entire interview just so you could get. I don't like to leave things out so that they can say that, well, you took it out of context, or you didn't look at everything correctly, or you didn't play the whole interview to get everything. But I heard what was said, and basically Biden was trying to defend throughout the interview the crime bill, and he even said, he doubled down on it from, which was the opposite of what Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton had said, which they even said was one of the biggest mistakes in their career. But I think the biggest thing was going into Libya and getting rid of Gaddafi, because that caused the problem with the balance of power there, because Libya is in terrible shape right now. But I'm going to play the rest of it, and just pay attention and listen. This is the last 2 minutes of it. Nicole, if you look at this, you can see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Look at the number of likes versus dislikes. Yes, I disliked it.
Yep. That says a lot. That says a hell of a lot.
Can you see it? Can everybody see it? 5,404 likes to 7,353 dislikes.
Wow.
This is one of the most unpopular videos on the Breakfast Club, I think, after the aside from the Malik Yoba interview, which was awful. But yeah, and I even Kamala, yeah, that was stupid. I don't know what the number of dislikes and likes were for that one, but I know the dislikes for the Malik Yoba interview. That interview, I think, was seen over 1 million views, but it had a lot of dislikes. But it says here, I wrote this. I even commented. I said this should serve as notice to the Black community. This is what the Democrats truly think of you and what they will always do for us. Nothing. VP Biden was condescending and dismissive this whole interview. Now, let me just play the rest of the interview. And Charlamagne, and I know we've had our issues with Charlamagne, but I thought I'll give credit where credit was due. He did not hold back in asking questions. He asked some good questions. I do think, though, he did let Biden at the end get off with that little comment that everybody is talking about. But let's play the video.
I think science matters.
I think we got decades and decades of studies from actual weed smokers.
Yeah, I do. I know a lot of weed smokers.
I want to ask you about your running mate. I don't know if you saw. Well, I saw today that a news report broke that Amy Klobuchar was being vetted, and a lot of people on social media, they're not too happy about that. And it's because they want your running mate to be a Black woman. I don't know if you saw the op-ed in the Washington Post by some of the leading Black women voices in this country. And they feel, since Black women are such a loyal voting bloc, and Black people saved your political life in the primaries this year, they have things they want from you. And one of them is a Black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who's being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple Black women being considered. Multiple.
Tokens.
Thanks so much. That's really our time. I apologize.
You can't do that to Black media.
Now look, someone comes in, and I think this is the second time they did it.
Mm-hmm.
But someone comes in while Biden is talking and tells him that's your time. Doesn't want us to finish the interview. And it is typical when sometimes they do these candidates, they have an agenda scheduled out, they'll get up and leave. But this happened once, not more than this happened more than once in the interview, if you've seen it. So I don't know who that person is, but and if you saw Jason Black's commentary on this, he really went harder than what I'm going in. But I'm gonna finish the clip.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP's endorsed me every time I've run. I mean, come on. Take a look at the record.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Anyway, thanks. I will come back.
All right.
I look forward to seeing you in person.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, pal. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Charlie.
Okay. So you guys heard that. Nicole, I know you have the video the podcast on it, but I would like to just hear your thoughts on it. And I'm just looking at the comments. Jaleel told me it's up to 9.5 thousand likes to 14,000 dislikes. And he also further wrote, Charlemagne the Coon will never be taken seriously by me. He will always play the fence, even with folks like Biden. I didn't hear anything about helping Black people in the past. What he did was mix truth with lies. The crime bill did nothing to help us as a whole. Hush Harbor wrote, he let him off the hook. He didn't bring up reparations. Yeah, that's true too. I listened to the interview. There was no talk about reparations, but I know realistically they won't do anything like that. Now,
well, my thoughts on
that's
it.
not to say you can't bring it up. Your thoughts,
right.
Yeah.
Right. My thoughts on it. I spoke about it, as you said, on my podcast last night, and I thought the overall 18-minute interview, I thought it was just embarrassing. I thought it was just terrible. Joe Biden got on there, and to me, he had a very smug tone, a very condescending tone. Even though I
said the same thing.
Right. Even though I have my issues with Charlemagne, the way he addressed Charlemagne, like, come on, guy. I thought that was very disrespectful. He could have come way better than that. And I know, like someone mentioned, he didn't bring up reparations. That's true. But only 18 minutes, what are you really going to get out of it? I mean, especially on a topic such as reparations, that's meaty. You're going to have to really get in there and let it all hang out. But yeah, I thought it was horrible. Joe Biden has an attitude as though, Black people are going to show up for me. They're going to come vote for me. So hell, why don't I even have to give you 18 minutes of my time? So it was just horrific all over from beginning to end.
Yeah, he hadn't learned from the hot sauce episode with Hillary Clinton. When Hillary Clinton did that. Now, Mark B said Charlemagne did a great job overall. He didn't have nothing but a few minutes. Well, yeah. I think Charlemagne was trying. He asked a few questions, although he asked important questions. And I felt, he didn't have a lot of time. But on that last little comment about you ain't Black at all, I could have checked. He could have been checked on it a little bit. Yeah. Now, some people
took it in. You know what I'm saying? Because he's the way he said it. And, you know what I'm saying? But I think once you go back, because sometimes I'll go back and look at interviews I've done. I'm like, I didn't catch that. So I'm wondering if he even caught it. But I don't know. I would have caught that. That was pretty, pretty out there.
Well, he actually said he didn't. He actually criticized Biden's interview of Charlemagne. He reacted to it. This is actually from Fox News. He says, I'm quoting from Fox News, but there are all the stories out there. Charlemagne the God says Biden, hold on, this ad is going to play. Charlemagne.
Pouring in tonight from many prominent African-American voices.
Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Charlemagne the God says Biden an intricate part of system that needs to be dismantled. Quote, what have you done for me lately? This is Kurt. You want me to play the Fox video right quick? This is, I don't know if Charlemagne is commenting on this one, but
just like the lone black Republican
if it gets boring, we'll cut it off.
South Carolina.
Think about the numbers. 1.3 million African Americans voted for Trump. He's saying to 1.3 million African Americans that you're not black? Who in the heck does he think he is? That is the most arrogant, outrageous comment I've heard in a very long time. And I take offense to that.
That's Congressman Tim Scott. He's a Republican.
We're joined by Fox News contributors Richard Fowler, Lawrence.
Now, just to be clear, I know how Fox News is. So I'm not taking up for Fox News when I read this. This was just the first thing that popped up. You can look at Google. They also talk about it. And this is what, this is their video. But just to read what Charlemagne said, I'm going to just, instead of playing this video, because I could tell these guys probably, maybe I shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but but hold on, let me just play what Charlemagne has on his Twitter. I think that'll be better. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. This is from The Hill.
My overall takeaway from the conversation was I heard him, talking about things that he did for black people back in the day. What have you done for me lately is my motto. I see black communities all across America catching hell regardless of who's in the White House, and because we have a bunch of underlying conditions created by systemic racism that have never been fixed. And like I said before, if you create legislation that hurts, then you have to create legislation that helps. It's just that simple. Like the whole system needs to be dismantled and rebuilt, and he's been a very intricate part of that system.
All right, well that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, but I agree. I agree with Charlemagne's comments to that aspect. If you want my vote, you got to be able to give me something in return.
Right.
Willie D was talking about this. I don't know if you saw his latest video, but the topic was, and I'm gonna put this here as a banner: why do black people vote out of fear? Why don't we vote? We either vote out of fear or out of history.
Right.
And no other ethnic group that I know of, not whites, not gays, although gays is not necessarily an ethnic group, but not Arabs, not Asians, not Latinos, they do not vote based off of fear.
Right.
We're the only ones that vote based off of fear or what Dr. King would have wanted. And that's not an insult to Dr. King or our ancestors who fought for the right to vote. They fought for the right, but they also fought for the right for us to be independent and to think on our own and not be a puppet of one particular party, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. You vote with your brain and you vote with your pocket. That's what, and you vote by who you think is going to be the best candidate. And I had people telling me, well, on my Facebook, when I commented on this, that were upset saying, don't get beside yourself. Don't get behind the object because, would you rather deal with this one or would you rather deal with Trump? The third party, that's like voting for Donald Trump. What can you? I said, wait a minute. Don't worry about who I vote for. You worry about you.
Right.
Who I vote for ain't nobody's damn business.
Right.
I don't have to tell you that.
Right.
And you're that worried about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has only been president for 3.5 years. You have had 43 other presidents who had issues with black people.
Right. And
even his predecessor, he did very little. He did very little for the black community. Right. And I get, he was the first one to get in the door, but damn it, when you get in there, you got to kick ass.
Right. Especially for your own, yeah.
Right. So go ahead, Nicole. Just tell me what you think.
Yeah, especially for your own. I mean, black people came out in record numbers, probably the most, probably of all time for Barack Obama. And Black people got nothing out of the deal. And that's the problem. That is the absolute problem. Voting, just empty voting with nothing, no tangibles, nothing to show for it. And see, this is my issue with folks like that. Voting third party, that's a vote for Donald Trump. Not voting is a vote for Donald Trump. So what is it? What is it? And then when we do vote and we do complain about a Barack Obama, for instance, well, you didn't demand anything. Wait a minute. So what are we supposed to do? You know, that's my problem with this. This is all psychological mind games. And I'm not going to fall for it anymore. And you shouldn't either. No one should.
Right. The days of just putting a symbolic victory in front of my face are over. Those days are gone. I get, you know, when our parents, because you're from Austin, is it, Nicole?
Born in Lubbock, Texas, but yeah, currently live in Austin.
All right. Well, I don't know what the ethnic makeup is there, but what is it? What's the black and white ratio? If you knew.
Majority white. It's probably it's majority white, then Hispanic, then Black, and then everybody else.
Have they ever had a black mayor? Just curious.
Who's that? A black mayor?
Oh, yeah.
As far as I know, no.
Okay. New Orleans, we had the first black mayor, and this is before my time, was Dutch Morial. Mm-hmm. And Dutch Morial was mayor for 8 years. He came in after Moon Landrieu, and then after him it was Sidney Bartholomew. Then you had Mark Morial, his son, who's president of the National Urban League, like they do anything. And then you had Ray Nagin. Then after Ray Nagin, you had Landrieu, Mitch Landrieu, son of former lieutenant governor and son of Moon Landrieu. Now, Mitch Landrieu was the first white mayor in a long time after those 4 black mayors. New Orleans has fallen apart ever since then. Like, Landrieu didn't do anything, but the thing was this: the economics, voting of it. It's the economics behind it that gets things done. When these groups want something done, they put an agenda in writing and they'll put money behind that candidate to move things. We don't do anything like that because the so-called leaders are so interested in just getting a job in the White House. It's like the Al Sharptons of the world. Like Al Sharpton was there with Obama more times than I think Frederick Douglass, almost more times as Frederick Douglass had visited the White House with Lincoln. Same thing with Martin Luther King and LBJ. They never pressed for anything. Like Boyce Watkins Dr. Watkins was even saying, and I know we've had our issues with Boyce. You've had issues with some things, but he said something very interesting, how he noticed how he was close with Al Sharpton, but then when he would start criticizing Barack Obama, Al Sharpton wouldn't be calling him anymore. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't be talking. And that's because these guys are more interested in getting something for themselves than they offer the group. And that's not what progress should be about. And I mentioned the Dutch Morials and the Maynard Jacksons, the mayor of Atlanta, those guys being the first mayors in those cities, Maynard, what he did in Atlanta by revitalizing that entire airport, he made sure, which is, I think, the 3rd busiest airport in the world, he made sure Black Americans, 80% of those contracts went to Black contractors to fix that up. And there's a reason why it's named after him.
Right.
You know, Jackson Hartsfield Airport, yeah, it's named after him because he rebuilt that. And he got reelected multiple times as mayor of Atlanta. So when you become the first, you got to do something. You got to be active in it. And you know, I saw women criticizing black men or black people for not voting for Hillary. Well, excuse me, if Hillary had been a better candidate, if Hillary had actually put an agenda on the table and not go on the Breakfast Club with hot sauce or go dancing with Jay-Z or whatever it was when they had that little concert in Ohio, but actually offered a tangibles and an agenda, we would believe it. And keep in mind, you know, people, they talk about the lesser of, you know, Evil is evil.
Right.
What you're basically saying is you would prefer, who do you choose between Satan or the devil?
Right. Right.
Now, if you're going to vote, vote with some common sense. I can't tell people how to vote. I won't tell you how to vote. You don't tell me how to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I do believe in voting, in that when you got ordinances in your city, in your county, vote for those things. Yeah, absolutely. City council person that you like, yeah, absolutely. But presidential elections, they're a horse another color, because it's an electoral college that decides that. And even though I live in Louisiana and we have a Democratic governor, it's still, and Louisiana is actually mostly Democrat, believe it or not, than Republican. We're still conservative.
Right.
Because you have those conservative Democrats. You have, I know Texas is, it's lights up red every year.
It does, unfortunately, but then again, is it really unfortunate? Because really not. It doesn't. Either party doesn't help us. So it's like,
right, we don't get any benefits out of them. It's like what Dr. Claude Anderson even talks about, that we suffer. He even said this. He said having Barack Obama in the White House was like having Clarence Thomas there.
Basically,
you haven't gotten anything, but yet the only group of people he spoke up for were immigrants and gays.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It is what it is. And I think if he had prosecuted, his Department of Justice had prosecuted these police officers that were killing the Alton Sterlings and the Eric Garner, then it may have changed things.
Yeah. A lot of things he could have done differently. He could have helped Black folks in certain situations. So I'm not a fan. I left the whole Obama hysteria years ago. And, we still have some Black folks out here that like wax and nostalgia about them, but there's nothing to wax, because when you go and look at his actual record, it's zilch. It's nothing. In regards to us, there's nothing there.
No Blacks appointment nominated for the Supreme Court.
No.
To offset Clarence Thomas.
Nope.
Nothing. I'm supposed to rejoice because he looks good in the brown suit. Michelle, beautiful.
Symbolism, just symbolism. We have to get off that.
Yeah, and I mean, Lord, if you talk to the elderly Blacks about it, you can't get anything out of them. You can't. Like, I remember when he was running, and there was this preacher at my college. I won't name his name, over at Southern, but I mean, everything was. If I said something about Obama, he came out like he was a Zulu warrior defending him. I mean, I'm being honest with you. It was crazy. You don't say this. This man, he's college educated. He's Harvard. He's Tufts. I said, and so what?
Right.
He could be educated, and what is he going to do? And I was right. Cynthia McKinney, who was running against Barack Obama in 2008, had a better agenda and plan for Blacks than what Obama was offering. Now, I did end up, and I understood why people wanted to see the history behind it, sure, but look at what he brought in now.
Right.
He was the Trojan horse for all of that stuff that we have now. Do you know that Joe Biden, since we're talking about Biden, that he said that his number one priority is LGBT? He said that in an article with the Associated Press.
He did. Yeah, I remember that. See, this is why the Democrats will continue to lose. They don't do that for us. That's fine. Have a plan, have a program for LGBT, have a plan or program for immigrants, Hispanic folks, whoever, but also have a Black agenda plan. I don't care what plans you have for everybody else. Have one for us as well. That's all we're saying. And you have nothing.
But the thing is that's only. But you look at that, and this is why we got to strategize. The LGBTQ only make up less than 3% of this nation's population. The transgender only make up 0.1%. And you see how strong this presence is in the media and politics. How they're able to get the president to get on television and endorse this. He spoke up endorsing damn Bruce Jenner for dressing up and putting on for being courageous on the cover of was it Vogue magazine?
One of those, yeah.
Yeah, one of those. And he was talking about this. I'm like, why is the president putting his mouth on something that doesn't involve him?
Right.
Why is this person getting an ESPY award for courage when they had someone, I believe it was a girl that lost her leg through a disease, and she was a mountain climber. There was another girl who played college basketball while she was facing death, terminally ill. She eventually died. She was nominated. They lost to him. They lost to Caitlyn Jenner. I was like, whoa.
That's how you know how strong they've become. So I really can't comprehend if folks feel like there hasn't been progress. There's been a lot of progress for the LGBTQ community. Some folks may not feel it's enough, but there's been progress. But the thing is, there needs to be major progress for Black people, for Black society as well.
Right. And Lord, if you say something against them, shit, you'll lose your job.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it's strong. It's strong.
Adam Carolla, who's a comedian, he made a joke about Chaz Bono some years ago. And, you know, Adam Carolla is the type of guy, I mean, he makes fun of all people, but he talked about them, and Lord, they did not let up on. And he even said it was like, he described it as a mafia. Bill Maher, who's he's obviously a very far left political commentator and a comedian as well. He has actually said, he actually described him as a mafia, even though he's a supporter. Because they fired, I believe, the CEO of the Mozilla Firefox company,
right?
Because they found out he had donated some monies to support traditional marriage, which, whether you agree with that or not, that is his constitutional right to vote how he feels. That way, then he has a right to do that. Well, he has a right to do all that. But yeah, but yeah, I don't see any. And this is what I think is going to hurt the Democrats in the end, because they were always condescending to Black people. It's always, I say, you jump. If I tell you to jump, you say how high.
Right.
I tell you when to eat and sleep. And I'm sorry, no, I'm a man. I pay my own bills. I eat and sleep when I want to. I'm not in prison.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. But we've getting a lot of that. But let's see if we got any. We got 33 people now in the watching us, Nicole. Let's see what some commentators say. Jalil said it's been more than enough for the LGBTQ. Yeah. If you listen to Judge Joe Brown on, I'm gonna shout out someone else too, Nicole. Brother Ron Hurd of We All Be News. I don't know if you've ever watched his channel, but
oh yeah, I know Ron.
You know Ron. Yeah, I'm very close with Ron. Ron had Judge Joe Brown on his show, and Judge Joe Brown actually broke multiple times about how there was a gay agenda in Hollywood, and he talked about that, and you know, the laws that are being changed. So anyone that is questioning where I'm getting this information, you can go look at his website and talk about that. But you know, see some other comments. Malcolm X spoke on the bankruptcy of Democrats and Republicans years ago. He warned us about this. That was from Nkrumah Toure. All right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's very true. So Nicole, what do you think is the solution for Black people in this 2020 election? What would you say is the best route to go?
Honestly, I'm just going to be raw and real. We might as well go ahead and accept that Trump is going to serve out these next 4 years. Now, there's a possibility that Joe Biden could win. That's a very possibility. But to me personally, I don't see that happening. A lot of folks are not feeling Joe Biden like that. And people also forget that there is a very large audience of Bernie Sanders supporters who don't like Joe Biden.
Right.
They detest him. So you have to think about the Sanders supporters, and you have to think about Black people or the Black sector, us, who are not for Joe Biden either. So how do they expect to win this? Because there's going to be some folks who just because they're pissed off because Sanders didn't win, they'll go vote for Trump out of spite. You're going to have some that may vote third party. You're going to have some that are not going to vote at all because they're over it. So I think we might as well get comfortable, just, set it in stone. Trump just may very well win this, and deal with what's ahead in 2024. And hopefully the Democrats will wake up. I doubt if they will, but they're going to have to come with something for Black people if they want to win. That's just what it is.
Right, no doubt. They have to give tangibles. That's the agenda. Now, I had mentioned earlier, let me just do a couple of housekeeping things, because I had mentioned earlier, and Clay wanted me to bring this up, going back to Cosby just quickly. Yeah. Hey, Gavin, what did Mike Epps say about the Cosby situation? I was going to say was that Mike Epps was on the Breakfast Club, and he talked about how they got him. Like, this was Mr. Clean. This was the guy who Cosby was the clean guy, and said they went out to get him. Mm-hmm. And that's what he was talking about. And of course, Charlemagne was saying, well, I mean, he was found guilty. He was guilty of stuff like that. It was like, well, but still, the effort what Mike was talking about, the effort they did to get him. Like, if they could do this to him, think of what they could do to other people who don't have money.
Right.
The young Black men. That's who I really worry about in Kevin, with Kevin Steele and Judge O'Neill. If you go in their courtroom, and I've heard some things about his drug court that he was trying to start, and issues that some people have complained about, who have talked to me about it. Mm-hmm. I won't say too much more because I don't have any more information. I don't want to say anything falsely.
And remember, guys, it was a Democratic DA that prosecuted Cosby, falsely, in my opinion. It was a Democratic Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, in Pennsylvania, that wrote a letter in support of keeping Bill Cosby locked up. And we have Governor Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania, another Democrat, who has not released Bill Cosby. All Democrats. And this is what we're supposed to be voting for. Remember that, folks. Democrats.
And let me put this in the chat so everyone can look, because I mentioned W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois was one of our great social commentators, and also he was a co-founder of the NAACP. Now, I know a lot of people, I know Tariq Nasheed, he brings him up a lot because he was an informant and things that Marcus Garvey, that he did with Garvey. But I respect him nonetheless. And in his later years, W.E.B. Du Bois was becoming even more militant. He lived to be 95 years old. He had moved to Ghana, and he died the eve of the Civil Rights March on Washington. And that is the link to the article. And he wrote this back in 1956. He said, it was entitled, Why He Won't Be Voting in 1956. It was entitled, I Won't Vote. And he talked about how he was 21 at the age of 1889. I have, in theory, followed the voting plan strongly, advocated by Sidney Lenz in The Nation of August 4th, i.e. voting for a third chances were hopeless if the main parties were unsatisfactory, or in the absence of the third choice, voting for the lesser of two evils. My action, however, had to be limited by the candidate's attitude towards Negroes. Of my adult life, I've spent 23 years living and teaching in the South, where my voting choice was not asked. I was disenfranchised by law or administration. Now, it's a pretty long article, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's there for you guys to look at. And he just breaks down why he won't, and how Democrats and Republicans had treated Blacks in America. So you guys can just take a look at that and read it when you get a chance. And let's see. Toure says, I disagree. Blacks do the best they can supporting Black candidates. Not a lot of Blacks have good jobs to begin with, thanks to white supremacy. What we need to do, though, is create businesses. That's the main thing. You look at the Asian community. The Asian community has the lowest voter turnout in the country, and they set up their grocery stores in our neighborhoods. And when they're making all their money off of us, they're actually putting it back into their neighborhoods as well. Well, not even their neighborhoods, but in their family unit, because they'll send it over for the next generation, send it overseas to their families there so that they can have money to come here. And then, I'll give you an example. I know of some people, and this is not condemning Asian groups or anything like that, or Asian community in general, but I know of groups that set up, for example, they have a family that owns a string of these particular chicken stores in Baton Rouge. And I'm not gonna lie, I eat there. It's great. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. So I like chicken. This does too. We all like fried chicken, and it's great. But they own. Although you gotta watch how much you eat. Yeah. But they own about 4 of them. They have one right by Southern, then another one in another area not far. And when those 2 was taking off, they were building another one right around LSU. And then when they got enough money, they built a 4th one, and they have all of their family members that are there. So that's how you got to do things. We got to put our money where our mouth is. You got to support each other. When you had Black business, Wall Street, they had that type of community set up. Well, we're not going to go to this white post office. We can't go there anyway. We're going to go to the Black post office here, or we're going to go to this lawyer this Black lawyer here, or this Black dentist. They stayed within that community and gave money. We don't have that structure, unfortunately, anymore, where we're able to support each other.
Right.
Right. And so I think if we focused on the economic aspect of it and we get that going, then we can go ahead also and get a candidate that's grassroots, that's from that community, that is part of that sees what we're trying to do, and he comes and supports us, and then get him in office and so forth. And Nicole, you wanted to comment?
No, I mean, I agree. It's going to have to come from the roots. It's going to have to come from us, because we see evidently they're not trying to help us, until that day comes, which I doubt it will. It's going to be all about us. Group economics. Everybody's going to have to come together and build on our own, because it's obviously we're not going to get any help. Right.
Dark Gable wrote, "You're right, G-Boot, but what do we do about getting loans to start a business when some get rejected, but anybody else can get it without question?" Well, that's a good point. Banks do discriminate from time against Blacks. The main thing I would say too is that use your spending power, save. That also is part of that as well when you want to start a business. For instance, when you look at the hair industry, and I talked about the Asian community, they control all of that. Asians and Arabs control the hair and product industry. And you saw from videos from 2018 when these Asian store owners, Korean store owners, were beating up these Black women in their store and so forth. There was one video out of Oklahoma. And the next day we saw how all of these Black men were out there protesting against the business. But then what happened is that the owner, the next day, he slashed the prices in the store. And when he slashed the prices, the lines were lined up. I'm not exaggerating, Nicole, all the way across behind the building.
I believe it.
And, well, it's on tape. And the Black women were upset. With the men that were out there protesting. Phil from the Advice Show even talked about it.
I saw that.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm not, damn this, what am I doing helping you? These men were out there trying to defend your honor. And the minute you slash prices, you go into this store. So we have to learn about self-control. We're going to have to learn about using our spending power, because we spend trillions of dollars. Some Everyday Peoples wrote he slashed it down halfway to 50%. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just like when we spend money on clothes and shoes, like we spend money on the next party, we need to spend money on, you know, doing on a business. And yeah, I see IB Me wrote, too many of us are afraid to do cooperative economics for fear of the next person having more. Until we can get past the mental conditioning, we'll continue to struggle. I agree with that. Yeah, that's true. Now, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Now, something I did want to bring up, Nicole. Of course, we have been talking the Ahmaud Arbery case
Mhm.
that's been, I shouldn't say popular, but they finally made an arrest of the guy who was recording the video. They charged him with uh, false imprisonment and also felony murder in the Ahmaud Arbery shooting. What did you think of his arrest and it taking that long to get him?
About time. I'm definitely not celebrating or getting excited because we know how they do, but he definitely should have been charged because it's quite obvious he had something to do with it. He was not there as an innocent bystander who just happened to,
Right.
happenstance, just happened to come across this. This guy
That
was.
had to have been a hell of a coincidence if he just randomly just came there and recorded that.
Right. There's no way. I'm like, any other person, if that actually they stumbled across something like that, you're calling the cops. You're trying to possibly run in the opposite direction because you think, what if they come for me? You don't know who these guys are, right?
Right. And he wasn't shocked. He didn't seem surprised either when holding the camera when the guns went off.
Exactly.
Like you didn't see the gun, you didn't see the camera move anyway, or you didn't hear him say, "Oh, a gasp" or anything like that.
It's just like, oh yeah, go ahead, let's get this going. Like he's filming basically a murder. So yeah, he was a part of it. He was an accessory. Charged him too.
Yeah. And it may be something, it's going to be something that's up to trial. As a general rule, as an attorney, I always say innocent until proven guilty, but I know that the video speaks for itself.
Right.
Unless they can show me that it was magically edited and Ahmaud Arbery is not dead. But, there's nothing like that shows that. But I think that he may, there may be a possibility because they may have to show, and this doesn't constitute legal advice, but they do have to show in a crime whether there's actus reus, what's called actus rea and mens rea, which means the act of the crime and the mentality. And murder is what's called a specific intent crime, meaning that you knew within your knowledge, like it was your intent to kill him and you knew the consequences of that. Right. Now, I'm not going to litigate the case and so forth. That's something that they're going to do in trial. Mm-hmm. But we know how things have been with us in our community, how there are always some type of loophole some of these people will find, like George Zimmerman, although I think Trayvon suffered from a bad prosecutor and a bad jury. Michael Brown, from what I've listened to Afro Synergy News and T West, was my understanding in the report, the grand jury testimony, that Darren Wilson actually did shoot Michael Brown first, that he actually strong-armed him. He did not do anything that provoked that, from my understanding. Same thing with Eric Garner. When we see Eric Garner laying on the ground in a chokehold, Eric Garner was, which is illegal in New York.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were no state charges filed, and the prosecutor didn't file charges. The federal prosecutors. Mm-hmm. And that was under who? Obama. So, and even here in Louisiana, when we had the Alton Sterling situation, they had actually said that the officer who did this, they said that it wouldn't arise under the civil rights. It was I'm sorry, I'm getting a brain freeze. They were basically saying that it wouldn't arise under the level of the 1983 statute, which is the color of law, because they felt that the officer was following or feared for his life, following protocol, feared for his life. But they also said what he did and told the attorneys that what of Alton Sterling's family, what he did was conduct unbecoming of an officer. They said he was highly unprofessional because he came out that car threatening Alton Sterling immediately. Like, you move, I'm gonna fucking kill you, and saying things like that. He escalated a situation.
Right.
Which is why he got fired. But
Right.
they wouldn't prosecute him or press charges because, number one, it's Alton Sterling. He's a black man. And the other thing, too, is that his father, this was Tony Salimi, his father was the third in command of the Baton Rouge Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't shocked when he wasn't prosecuted by it. But
wow. Yeah, makes sense. These people in these small towns and, these little hick towns, as they call them, they all know each other. They know the prosecutor, the DA, the sheriff, and they get away with this, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, unfortunately, and those DAs, I've written, you've seen it on Facebook, and I've told everybody about this. I've written a letter demanding that these two DAs be disbarred.
Right.
That was Diane I forgot the lady's name, Johnson, and the other DA of Wayne County. Their name escapes me. If someone can put it in the chat box, I'll remember. I can't remember everything.
I know so many names and stories.
Yeah. Right, but apparently it's not the first time she's done it.
Yeah. I saw a video by True Rural Family and how they've covered up police brutality. They covered up this white woman who was gunned down by the police, lied. I mean, these people are so corrupt. It's not even funny.
Right. And if you go to another YouTube channel, Audit the Audit, they really do a great job of breaking down police interactions with civilians and police stops. You can get a lot of information there. And he did a 20-minute YouTube video on the Ahmaud Arbery shooting that broke down practically everything that we said. He talked about how blacks are more likely to be profiled than whites by two times more than whites. And clearly he did say that he didn't find any history of racism from the McMichaels, but he did note that this McMichael, Gregory McMichael, had assisted in the prosecution of Ahmaud Arbery some years back. Mm-hmm. And they've tried to really do a job on the brother's character. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know if you saw this, Nicole. I think you did. They posted a video about his 2017 shoplifting arrest.
Yes, I saw that. And that just goes to show that the media is responsible for that. They're trying to find something, a narrative that can support these monsters. And they do this all the time because whatever happened with Ahmaud Arbery and this, what was it? He was shoplifting a TV is what they were accusing him of doing, and it wasn't even true. And so they released this footage because, the footage of him being in that house that was under construction didn't work because, the owner also showed video of other people walking in and out of that house under construction. So they're trying to find something and they can't find anything. And it just goes to show how demonic, evil, and just trashy they are. They're still trying to protect these men.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's even more than just protecting the men. It's about shaming the victim.
Yes.
More accurate way to determine it, because even with the young child that was killed, Tamir Rice, they brought up his father's criminal past or the fact that his family was divorced. And I'm like, what does that have to do with this?
Has nothing to do with it.
This young woman that was shot in, I believe, was it in Kentucky? Miss Breonna Taylor?
Yes.
Yeah, and I saw that her boyfriend was released from jail. They dropped the charges, which was great.
Yes.
But they even tried to look at her history. The local news out there. Like, we're focusing on that, and really the fact that this was a woman that was just sleeping in her fucking bed, coming off a double shift, and and now she's deceased. Her boy, her man is without his girl, and I don't know if she had any children, but they're without their mother. The mother I know spoke. She's without her daughter. I'm just sick of all of this.
Oh, I know. It's awful. It's evil. Poor Breonna Taylor. They were not even at the right house, and this happens so much. These botched raids, which honestly, I don't even think. I think they're on purpose. I think they just want to go in any Black person's home and do this and get away with it. And it seems unconstitutional. Right.
Most definitely it is. And the fact that it was without a knock. You have the rule was called knock and announce, and this was deemed a no knock, which means that the officers had to have within their knowledge a strong reasonable basis that there was the possibility that evidence was going to be destroyed, or you're dealing with a dangerous, violent criminal. Right. And the problem with that is that, number one, they gave the wrong address.
Right.
And the criminal that they were seeking had already been locked up.
Right.
And, unfortunately, what's going to happen, more than likely, you're going to end up with a lawsuit, and there's going to be a settlement with money. I don't know if there'll be criminal charges that will result, but this is why it is important to vote, especially locally. The judge there in that case is Judge Olu Stevens. Judge Olu Stevens is a rarity because he's one of the few Black true activist judges that we need. And he's up there, remember he got this removed from the bench from the time because he pointed out the disparities in the selection of the jury.
Mm-hmm.
A few years back, and he made those announcements public, and the judicial committee suspended him.
Right. I remember that. Yeah. It's important. Definitely. If you're going to vote, definitely do it locally. See who's, as you said, city council, the judges, all of that is important.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, Deandra Mosley says, how you doing, Deandra? Hey, Gavin, I find it interesting. New Orleans elected its first Vietnamese city councilwoman for New Orleans East, District E. Now, suddenly more development is happening there. What are your thoughts? I have to answer that with a question. What development? Because I live in the New Orleans East area, and I don't really see too much development that's going on, per se. Now, the councilwoman he's talking about is Cindy Nguyen. Most of what we've gotten in New Orleans, as far as our businesses are concerned, we don't have any malls. New Orleans is the only city I know of that doesn't actually have a mall. Yeah, because at one point back before Katrina, in 2005, we had the Plaza Mall out here. Mm-hmm. But the Plaza Mall, of course, ended up being closed. But the Plaza actually started going downhill before that because we started losing big stores like Dillard's and Mervyn's, and Sears had left. And the only one was left was Maison Blanche. And then Maison Blanche gets bought out by Dillard's, and there's only one Dillard's store there. And we only have, and these other little stores that are in there, but that was about it. And I don't know how it is up in Austin with y'all malls, but I'm sure. But I've been in Dallas. When I was in Dallas, Texas, I saw. I was staying at the DoubleTree Hotel, which was off of the I-10. Well, it's not the I-10, but the interstate highway. Mm-hmm. And there were I saw this with my own. There were two big malls across from each other. I can't think of the names of it, but those that are in Dallas, and I was thinking you may know what I'm talking about. Like they were just sitting right across from each other, two different malls, and we don't have something like that in New Orleans. We had the only place you can go shop is like the Riverwalk, or you got to go out into another parish, like Jefferson or Slidell, which is still like 20 or 30 minutes ride from me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there are definitely malls all over Texas, here in Austin, We've had a few over the years close down and they build something else, but yeah, we definitely have malls. Oh yeah.
Yeah, New Orleans is a different animal.
Wow.
So,
that's interesting. Okay.
yeah. And DeAndre wrote again, C stays here. Hey Gavin, what's the connection between Alton Sterling's murder? Is there still an effort to make that new city Georgetown from Baton Rouge? I believe what you're talking about, DeAndre, is the city of St. George that they were trying to do, which was basically all of South Baton Rouge. They tried to break away from Baton Rouge and form their own independent entity. And what happened was they actually got enough votes, I remember a few years ago, to do that. I had actually moved away from Baton Rouge back in 2018, right around the time that happened. And I don't know if that was necessarily connection with that or if they're still doing it. I think they have been tied up with lawsuits about it, even though the election process had already happened. So I don't know what the status of that is next, but anyway, that's what it is. So I don't know if there was a connection with that in Alton Sterling. It hasn't been arranged.
Mm-hmm.
But
wow, interesting.
Yeah, Nicole, I don't know how long you usually do your videos. I know when you have Harvey, it's usually over an hour and 20 tops.
Yeah.
I think I've broken
the go longer, but yeah. I've been trying to keep them a little bit shorter because I know after a while, maybe like the audience is like, okay, this is a lot to take in. But some people love long live streams. But yeah,
they do. I know Jason Black does 3 hours of the Black Authority. Yeah.
Sometimes they go on that long. I'm like, oh Lord, I have to check out for a bit.
Yeah, and we've been at it. It's almost an hour and a half. Well, it's over an hour and a half, an hour and 41 minutes. So let's just have you sit and talk with me. I appreciate it. Anybody, if you want to read more, you want any more questions? Let's see if anybody's got any questions for the next couple of minutes before we head on out. Now's the time. Because Nicole's got to get back.
If you haven't seen the free Bill Cosby video, go see it and share it everywhere. It's on my channel.
Put the link up in the chat room, Nicole Forum.
Oh, sorry about that. You know what? It won't let me. I don't think I can. I've tried that before.
If you send it through private chat, I could. I could pick up.
Okay. Make sure to. All right. Here we go. Let's see if that works.
I do have it in the private chat. Hold on, let me copy it and put it as a banner. So, and guys, I want you also to please subscribe if you have not to Nicole's View on YouTube. Also check out her podcast, which is an excellent podcast. She's doing well with that. I have to actually listen to the last one you did, but I've listened to it, and I started doing Anchor as well with my podcast. But I got to figure out a way how I can play my music on there because it doesn't allow me to do it. So I don't know if I might need another streaming thing, but.
Yeah, that's strange. I thought that would allow you, but like I said, I just use their musical templates or whatever. So
yeah. And let's see. Clay Stevenson had asked me, do you have any big interviews coming up, Gavin? Well, that is for me to know, Clay, and you to find out and tune in and donate. Donate, please, people. Give money. Let's see. Are any of you thinking about voting green or just putting a name in the ballot? All options are on the table for me. I can't speak for Nicole.
I do not plan on voting for the presidential election. I'm just going to focus on local. I see no point in it at this point.
I mean, I won't lie. I voted for a third party candidate before, but of
Me
course,
too.
if you tell somebody that, well, you must have just went ahead and vote for Trump, like you're not working with it. Well, you've been working in the same thing, and you ain't got shit out of it either. So what does that matter? You had Trump for another 4 years. I mean, let's be real. Black people have had. I'm not saying that I support Donald Trump or anything like that, but we've survived 8 years of George W. Bush, who was one of the most, not only incompetent, but most racist presidents we had. Ronald Reagan was one of the most racist presidents you had. Reaganomics. Look at what he did with the economy. Lyndon Johnson, who did stuff for black people, was on tape saying nigger, calling Dr. King a nigger, and so forth. And although he worked closely with Dr. King and so forth, and he signed the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, clearly his comments were inappropriate. So you've survived worse. You had Andrew Jackson, one of the most vile racists that ever walked this land.
Yeah, I don't buy into the boogeyman thing anymore.
Right, that doesn't work.
They do this every 4 to 8 years. They pull out this. It's the most important election of our time. You said that when Bush was running, Bush Sr. was running. So you said that with Reagan. Like, none of these people move me. They're all the same.
And the people we have had that supposedly did good for us, like we call Bill Clinton the first black president because he went on Arsenio Hall and blew a saxophone.
Right.
I don't care about all of that shit.
Right.
Bill Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act of 1996 that Joe Biden, even as a senator, voted for. And of course, they weren't alone. And that was another thing I was getting, Nicole. People were saying, well, are you mad at the black people that supported the crimes bill? And I had to respond. I said, the black people that supported it aren't the ones running for president.
Right.
And be that as it may, I don't support the Congressional Black Caucus either, especially Jim Clyburn, who called Joe Biden an honorary black earlier this past March at a fundraising meeting and committee. So I don't care about all of that and those guys. There's a reason why they're irrelevant. And we keep electing them over and over and over again. I'm tired of that.
I'm tired of it too. I'm tired of the psychological mind games of vote for this, you don't vote, so vote for this, vote for that, you don't vote for that, you still voting for Trump. Miss me with all of it. It's just not going to work anymore.
And if you got a problem with it, tough shit.
Yeah.
How I vote, yeah. I mean, that's my opinion.
Right.
Like, you want to go vote for him, like I said earlier, that's your belief. I'm not going to knock you for it.
Right.
But don't knock me because I don't agree with something with you. If I vote, if I make the decision for Biden, like I said again, he's got to bring something more than what he did at this wasn't a good start.
No.
Being on the Breakfast Club. He better do better than that because otherwise he's going to be even more shocked and embarrassed like Hillary was when she lost to Trump.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said in my podcast last night, or early this morning, I don't know when are some of y'all going to be tired of being the battered wife, because that's how I feel when it comes to the Democratic Party.
Right. That's
lies. Right. Just being battered. And, you come around when the election time comes, you bring your gifts and trying to act like you're apologizing. It just doesn't work, only to forget about us. Once you're in the White House, I'm not doing it anymore. Sorry. Just not.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. And like I said again, it's Tangibles 2020. You got to do something for African Americans in this country specifically. I'm not saying you can't do things for other groups, but there better be your agenda cannot. I'm looking at his black agenda. I don't know if you saw it, but it seems like it's just the same song and dance.
Right.
I'll put the link in here so everyone to make up their own decisions what they think of it. But so far, like I say again, Mr. Biden needs to do better than what he did earlier. So
a lot.
But with that being said, Nicole, a lot indeed. Do you want to have the last word? Say anything, like anything you're promoting?
Yeah, like I said, basically, follow me on Nicole's View on YouTube. If you aren't, I'm sure most of you are. I'm on Nicole's View on Anchor, Apple, on all the streaming podcast sites, I guess. Feel free and please share the free Bill Cosby Now link. It's on YouTube. I have it on my Facebook page, everywhere, Twitter. And just wake up, be smart, and don't fall for the bait when it comes to this election.
Most definitely. And you all, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also subscribe to my Patreon. I have that in the description box as well. I can't urge this again, and you see the ticker going along. Please donate, anything that you can contribute, because it takes a lot of time for many of us to come together and do videos, and a lot of time out of our day to do this, to entertain you, and to not just so much entertain, but to inform you.
Mm-hmm.
There's such information out there that most people do not know about. And I want to also give a shout out to, just quickly, I got new subscribers just from talking with you, Nicole, from
Awesome.
Toure, and not Torre, not that one.
Okay.
He wouldn't be on here, but Toure, as well as who else I have. I'm just trying to shout y'all out. Dre Black. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. IDK Alston. Sorry, I'm butchering your names. But Tarani Richardson, Sun God, Triple O Sun God. Thank you all for joining my channel. Nicole, don't go anywhere. I just have a quick question I want to ask you. There are going to be more. Yes, to answer Claire's question, there are some things in the works that I've been in touch with, but I don't want to give it away until it's confirmed. So you guys just stay tuned and ask. So
Yeah.
Subscribe to this channel, subscribe to Patreon, subscribe to Nicole's View on YouTube, as well as her podcast on Anchor. Also donate to her channel as well. What you want, you can give your Cash App and so forth. You want me to put in a private chat? And
That's fine. It's $DNL 1984.
all right, y'all heard it. $DNL 1984 Cash App. Yeah, y'all help and support our sister Nicole. And Nicole, I saw your picture earlier. You've been doing Zoom, but has that resumed? I didn't ask you this. Has that resumed in Austin with the?
No. We my instructor, she still does it on Zoom, the live streaming. So that's how I've been keeping up with it.
Right. That's why I have not. I just walk.
Yeah. That's not wrong. Walking's good.
I've lost 15. I've lost over 20 pounds so far.
Nice.
I'm trying. So
yeah, I know.
Dre Black, excuse me. Yeah, they're correcting me. Dre Black. I see Court 03. She says B1. And Dark Gable 831. He is now a subscriber. All right. Thank all of you. Clay says cool. Of course. What's up, Clay? Clay, I'm gonna leave you right here so you have the last word there. So that's good. But don't go anywhere. I'm about to end the broadcast. I've got to ask you just one more thing. But everybody, thank y'all for joining on this special edition of Gavin Richard Presents. I'll see you next time. You all be blessed, be safe, have a wonderful Memorial Day. As you know, Memorial Day, shout out to all of our veterans who served in the armed forces, especially there are some in our community who don't understand why so many of our Black people serve despite all that. But this is still our country. Our ancestors fought for it. The first Black man to die in the American Revolution, first man to die, not just Black man, but the first man to die in the American Revolution was Crispus Attucks, who was a Black man. And most of our kids don't know history of things like that. I have grandfathers that have served. Both of my grandfathers served in World War II. I have uncles that have been in the Air Force. My grandfather talked about the Black Flank, which was the Union regiment that fought in the Civil War. And of course, you all know stories like Glory, which, Denzel and Morgan Freeman were in, about the 54th Regiment. So I respect our, servicemen, and I certainly wish everyone a happy Memorial Day. Of course, keep your social distancing, but barbecue as much as you can. Good. But that's it for me, guys. And Memorial Day actually was started on behalf of the Black soldiers that did die during this not American Revolution, the Civil War. See, it's brain freeze.
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you, guys.
Happy Memorial Day. Thank you, guys. Peace.